I will call this meeting to order. It's the regularly scheduled meeting of the Transportation and Public Works Committee. This day, October 29th, 2019. I'm Councilman Reich. I chair the committee and am joined by my colleagues, Council Members Johnson, Palmisano, and Fletcher. We are a quorum, and I'm sure we'll be joined by our other colleagues shortly. But we will proceed with today's agenda, which we have 11 items, some of which are on consent. I will go through the consent items first. Any committee member can pull them for further deliberation at the request. Item 4 on the consent items, the contract with the Waste Management of Minnesota Incorporated for operation of municipal solid waste transfer station. Item 5 is the contract amendment with Hennepin County for road maintenance. 6 is the agreement with Hook and Ladder Apartments Limited Partnership for public infrastructure improvements with the Jefferson Street Northeast Public Right-of-Way. Item 7 is the 20th Avenue South Bridge over Minnehaha Creek project appropriation increase. 8 is the 2019 sanitary sewer availability charges appropriation increase. 2019 is the levy of various public works department special assessments. 10 is the bid for the softening plant heating, ventilating, and air conditioning renovations project. That's accepting the low bid. And item 11 is the bid for the alley snow plowing services, and that's accepting the following 3 bids submitted, and they are listed. Does anyone wish to pull any item? See none, I'll approve all items as submitted. All in favor say aye. Aye. Dissenting name. That carries. We can now move to the public hearings, starting with public hearing number 1. Good morning, Director Hutchinson.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. We have 3 public hearings today. I will start with the first of the 3, which is the repair of a street failure at 97th Street South. This is the project approval and assessment in the amount of $68,781. Mike Kennedy, the Director of Transportation Maintenance and Repair, will be presenting information.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Again, Mike Kennedy. I'm the Director of Transportation Maintenance and Repair for Public Works. On October 31st, 2017, a private utility company working at 6th Street in Marquette in front of the Wells Fargo Center, formerly the Northwest Center, as shown on the diagram here, whose property address is 97th Street South, discovered a void under 6th Street, adjacent to the property's underground garage. The utility company notified Public Works staff, who investigated the void. This void ran under and parallel to the curb and gutter and was immediately adjacent to the property's basement wall. The void was photographed and shown to the property's representatives, Hines Management Company, on May 2nd, 2019. During the time Public Works and Hines were discussing the situation, the curb and pavement collapsed at the location of the void. Traffic control was ordered and vehicles and buses needed to be routed around the collapse area while a solution could be determined. The existence of the void and resulting street failure represented a serious nuisance condition requiring immediate attention. Upon initial discovery of the underground void, Public Works hired a professional geotechnical firm, American Engineering and Testing, or AET, to investigate and determine the cause of the void and collapse. AET worked closely with city staff during the removal of the failed pavement and excavation work, and based upon its investigation, it was AET's professional opinion that the cause of the voids was due to ramifications resulting from an earth retention system used for the original construction of Northwest Center, now Wells Fargo Center, on the property. This earth retention system was abandoned and left in place within the right-of-way at the request of the property's original owner. Research into city building records confirmed that a right-of-way encroachment permit was granted on August 8, 1986 to install an earth retention system for the construction of the Northwest Center. The encroachment permit reflects the property owner's legal responsibilities related to the earth retention system, and these include any potential damages associated with the existence of the earth retention system in the right-of-way. Hines was provided an opportunity to perform its own investigation and to make the necessary repairs to the right-of-way. Hines ultimately took the position that the void was caused by previous underground utility work and was not the responsibility of the property. Public Works advised Hines that the city would move forward and make necessary repairs, and that all costs associated with this work would be pursued in the form of an assessment against the property. The city's work was associated with and benefited the property. The proposed total assessment for 97th Street South is $68,781, and staff is requesting approval of the assessment against the property. So today, our recommendation is passage of a resolution adopting the special assessments in the amount of $68,781 for street repairs adjacent to the property at 90 South 7th Street, now occupied by Wells Fargo, and passage of resolution requesting the Board of Estimate and Taxation authorize the city's issuance and sale of the assessment bonds in said amount. So that is my presentation. I'd be happy to take questions if needed.
Are there any questions per the staff presentation? Seeing none, I will then open the public hearing, and this again is public hearing item 1 on the agenda. We do have people who signed in. I will take them in order, starting with Carol Lansing. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good morning, council members. I'm Carol Lansing. I'm an attorney at Faegre Baker Daniels, 2200 Wells Fargo Center, 90 South 7th Street, right outside of where this occurred. I'm representing the property owner and the management company Hines, and with me also signed up today is Ray Huber, who is a professional engineer with Braun Intertech. The basis for this proposed special assessment is different than you usually encounter. This isn't a project that's a routine road improvement, and there's tried and true formulas for determining how much you're going to assess property owners adjacent to the street. This assessment is based on a premise that the street damage was caused by some condition of the encroachment, this underground area that's part of the Wells Fargo building. In order for you to make that conclusion, you need to have facts in the record to support it, and there aren't any. AET isn't here. They don't have a report in front of you. There's a statement in the RCA of what their conclusion was. And the burden of proof should be on the city staff at this point to make that record and to prove that there's a relationship between that damage and not just speculate that it's related to the building. We do have Mr. Huber here to go through his observations. He did go to the site. He did observe the situation, did have discussions, I believe, with AET. And so I'd like to turn it over to him to actually give you his expert experience and observations.
That's fine, and he's next on the list. So, Mr. Huber, please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Good morning. I'm Ray Huber with Braun Intertech, a geotechnical engineer. I've been working with Hines, looking at what the settlement issues along 6th Street associated with AET and the city is saying is reflected to the retention system, which is a one-sided wall. I've been involved with a number of one-sided walls in the city of Minneapolis, and my company has designed a number, more than a dozen of them, across the upper Midwest, and we've never heard of an issue of settlement, causing street settlement due to a one-sided wall. The city opened up, and we looked at if is anything gone, did the wall rot away or what? So city opened it up, did a test bit. We went down, we saw the soldier beams, which supports the retention system. We saw the wood lagging still in place, so there's no loss of material in that system. So causing settlement from the retention system seems unreasonable, in my opinion. Seen in one-sided walls times where there's some loss of ground when they're building the building. This is back in about 1990. When they're driving the H-piles and they put the wood lagging in, there can be some loss of ground from sand that comes between the wood lagging when they're building it. But that would happen, that was 30 years ago. And some of that settlement would have occurred, especially when they're building the building over a 2-year period, most of that settlement would have occurred. So I just can't see it's associated with the one-sided wall that was built for the basement of Wells Fargo. So my opinion is that in the street, there's utilities being put in the street all the time. It's in an urban field. The most utilities in the upper 10 feet, and it's in what we call urban field. It's a real fine-grained, silty sand with some debris common throughout the Twin Cities, Minneapolis area. It's very hard to compact. You have to put in small lifts. And I would think some of that is just the settlement of these utilities over a period of time. So that was my thoughts, and open up to questions.
Don't see any questions. Thank you for your testimony and the facts therein. Don't have any else signed up. Did anyone sign up over there? Does anyone else wish to come forward and present? Does anyone wish to come forward? See none, I will close the public hearing. I will note, before we get into further discussion, if committee members wish, that this is an assessment, though, that has unique characteristics before us, but the action before us as a matter of committee work is the assessment, which is tied to our evaluation of the dollars set to the work done. The other matter, of course, there's underlying disputed facts, and that would have to be refereed in some other venue. But I will open up the committee if there's any questions for staff, or if Director Hutchinson wishes to add to what we have before us.
Mr. Chair, thank you for the floor for a moment. Staff, Mike Kennedy, and as well as Larry Matsumoto have spent the past few months preparing technical analysis and working with a firm called AET, who has provided a technical analysis and report that backs up the technical analysis that was done by our staff. We respectfully disagree with the Braun conclusions that they have come to.
So obviously, we didn't have those facts before us. We wouldn't be able to evaluate them. Not only would it be out of order procedurally, but practically we don't have the facts to be adjudicating on that set of dispute. So with that, I would just recommend to staff, by way of staff direction, to pursue whatever is the appropriate dispute resolution format, but move the item before us insofar as we believe that staff assess the work based on the labor and material involved per our usual evaluation. So with that, I move that item. Any further discussion? See none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Dissenting nay, and that carries. We can now go to public hearing number 2, Hennepin Avenue Street reconstruction. Good morning.
Good morning again, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I am very pleased and actually, I will say excited to introduce this next set of public hearings on the Hennepin Avenue Street reconstruction. I'm going to introduce the two hearings together, and Don Elwood, the Director of Transportation Engineering and Design, will present one set of information that is applicable to both public hearings. The first public hearing is the project approval and assessment and areaway abandonment for the special assessments associated with the roadway reconstruction project. The second Hennepin Avenue public hearing relates to the Streetscape project approval and assessment, which is a passage of the resolution ordering the work to proceed for the additional assessment. The first one is for $1.185 million. The added value to the corridor in the assessments is $4 million. Don's going to do this too, but I just want to recognize that there are numerous people in the room today that have worked extremely hard on this corridor for the past several years, starting about 3 years ago when we rescoped this project to be more comprehensive in nature. The presentation that you're going to see is a result of the work of really everybody, just about everybody left in this room. So I just want to say a collective thank you to everyone who's here that was part of the project, is part of the project, and everyone who's here to support.
Good morning, Mr. Elwood.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I'm Don Elwood. I'm the Director of Transportation Engineering and Design for Minneapolis Public Works. Thank you, Director Hutchinson, for that great introduction and the thanks, and set this up for me. Today's action, there are 2 separate public hearings, and I'm going to try to do this in one presentation. I want to try to set the stage for the history of how we got to where we are today. So in 2016, Public Works, or prior to 2016, Public Works added Hennepin Avenue to the capital program. The infrastructure in Hennepin was falling apart, both above ground and below ground. And I wanted to thank Jenny Hager and Transportation Planning and Programming that went out and did some stakeholder engagement to get us to a council-approved concept layout for Hennepin. And that set us up so that we could go then seek federal funding and really start to pull this program together. Just briefly, the project limits are from 12th Avenue to Washington Avenue, and the project includes wider sidewalks, a protected bike lane up off the curb, or up off the roadway, enhanced bus stops, and 4 vehicle lanes. Transit is a big part of the Hennepin corridor, and Metro Transit has stepped up as part of their E-line and provided funding for enhanced bus shelters, a large open shelter with heating and lighting, real-time sign information, near-level boarding, and in the future we'll have an off-fare collection system. A little over 2 years ago, we established a stakeholder advisory committee, and they've done a lot of work over the past 2+ years, and that was made up of the Business Owners and Managers Association, the Downtown Minneapolis Neighborhood Association, the Hennepin Theater Trust, Metro Transit, Minneapolis Downtown Council, and also the DID. We've been working together for, like I said, over 2 years to try to pull this corridor together. What's the look and the feel and the vision? Engagement and design process, over 150 meetings for this corridor. We've done design workshops, open houses. We've done pop-up events on the street. We've put chalk out on the roadway or out on the sidewalk to show people what's this new corridor going to look like. Neighborhood meetings and a whole host of one-on-one meetings with all the businesses or anybody who wanted to find out more about the project. Nice graphic on schedule. So in 2016, we had this approved concept which allowed us to seek the funding. We did our engagement process to get a council-approved geometric layout for that base roadway. What is it going to look like? That was in summer of 2018. And that's when we started to work on what I would call the enhanced streetscape elements for what Hennepin is. So that came in late 2018 and a good part of 2019. When we started the journey for the streetscape, what we wanted to show is that the dark blue box here, this represents what I would call city funding, federal funding, gas tax funding, and allowed us to talk to those property owners and say, this helps leverage. With a little dollars more up on top, we can put in an enhanced streetscape across the entire corridor, which we represented as B. But we also entertained doing a much higher level of a streetscape engagement between 5th and 10th. But that base funding really helped set the stage for getting more. The streetscape would be similar to what we do anywhere else in the city, where those direct property owners say, we want more, we want better lighting, we want more amenities. And so we took that approach with Hennepin. So when we first started talking to property owners, we showed them this is what the base level type project would be. High-low level lighting, standard sidewalk, standard trees and tree grates. We'd still have the bike trail. Then we said, what would tier B look like? What could we get for more investment? So in that more investment is enhanced street lighting, banners, planted areas, larger trees, irrigation systems. That would be in level B. And we said, what could we do between 5th and 10th to raise it up even more? So we came up with this graphic. More banners and what I would call theatrical type lighting. This would be programmable lighting, movable lighting, sound systems, scored sidewalk, more intensity in the middle. During the streetscape process, these are several of the meetings that we had. So in October and November of 2018, we did one-on-one property owner meetings. In November of 2018, we had open houses to talk about the streetscape. In December, we had property owner design workshops. And then in June of 2019, we had an enhanced streetscape petition meeting to tell the public, here's what we're proposing to do and what it's going to cost. In 2019, we had some more one-on-one property owners, and again in August, we did some more one-on-one property owner meetings to explain what the streetscape is. So here's what happened. We did a preliminary streetscape with a cost of $6.5 million. The results of that petition and meetings was not well supported. It was not well supported from a cost perspective, and so we had to rework what the streetscape was going to be. So we got back together with the SAC group, and what we did was we adjusted the streetscape and basically took out Tier A in the middle by adjusting, removing some of the benches, and going more with a standard lighting package of enhanced lighting, but we took out the theatrical lighting. One other thing we did was we sent out a financial performance sheet to every property owner to give them a sense for what are the dollar magnitudes associated with each individual property for a streetscape as well as the roadway. In addition, we worked with Minneapolis Downtown Council and the DID. Ben Chardelot put together a nice graphic for us that when we were talking to folks about what do planters look like, what was in their mind is what was out on Hennepin before, and I wanted to show them we've done a couple pilot projects, and this bottom picture is here's what we're going to deliver. So when they heard planters, they thought the top picture, but we wanted to show them this is what we're going to deliver. Same thing happened with the bus shelters. When we said bus shelter, in their minds, they saw that top picture, but what we're delivering is that bottom picture. And then again, with parking lot fencing, they saw what's out there today, and that's what they got in their mind. We wanted to show them in the bottom picture, this is what we're going to deliver. In addition, Hennepin Theater Trust stepped up, and one of the questions that we were getting on the corridor is about activation and programming for the corridor, and Hennepin Theater Trust stepped up and said, we're willing to activate and program this corridor. So the streetscape enhancements, here's the elements of the streetscape enhancements. Custom lighting, which you can see in the picture, banners on the lights, larger trees, planter beds with railings, irrigation systems, custom light poles. Those custom lights that are going in with this proposed streetscape provide the enhanced lighting now, but those light poles can provide easy modifications in the future if we wish to add more. Streetscape enhancements also include custom tree grates, bicycle parking, trash and recycling, and parking lot fencing. The assessment component. The roadway assessment is done with our standard uniform assessment rate that we do on all projects across the city. It's done by the influence area. 1.185965 is to be assessed. So that's public hearing number 1 is for the roadway. For the streetscape enhancements, that's $4 million based on front foot lineal across the entire corridor. So it's the more lineal feet you have, you pay X dollars per lineal foot, and that's the basis for the assessment on that property. That's a $4 million assessment. Last week, we conducted informational meetings after we sent out the public hearing notices. We conducted a meeting on Monday afternoon and also on Wednesday at noon to explain to the public when they got their assessment, how it worked, and the overall process. That concludes my presentation.
Any questions per the staff presentation? Seeing none, I will then open up the public hearing, starting with people who signed in. And the first person signed in was William, and I can't quite read the last name. Griffin. Oh, thank you. Please come forward, say your name and address for the record.
Mr. Chair, members, my name is Bill Griffith, representing Minneapolis City Parking. You'll know them as the owner of the Orpheum lot. The Orpheum lot's just to the south of the Orpheum Theater. We filed written objections, so I'll be brief. I just want to make this statement on the record so we connect our written objections to the record for this hearing. We believe the city has failed to establish special benefit for the public improvements and the assessments as required by law. The benefits are general, as described in the presentation, but not special or specific to the property. I would take this time to object in this hearing, but also to avoid getting up and making the same statement. I would be making the same objection at the next hearing.
Very good.
That's okay.
Thank you. Noted for the record.
Thank you very much.
Mark Nierenhausen, please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Good morning. I'm Mark Nierenhausen, President CEO of Hennepin Theater Trust at 900 Hennepin. And we're pleased to see the project advance to this stage. We recognize that it's taken a lot of work to get there. As Mr. Elwood has noted, that there's been hours and hours of stakeholder meetings that we've been a part of. I've been a part of that, and my colleagues have been a part of that. Hennepin Theater Trust drives cultural and economic vitality through the leadership of the Hennepin Theater District. We bring more than 600,000 people a year to the downtown for ticketed events at the Orpheum Theaters and others. We lead statewide education programs, and we transform the space in the downtown through activation, as was noted earlier. We have the largest public art program in the Midwest. We've also been able to build strong community partnerships and advance cross-sector investments with nonprofits, philanthropic partners, community leaders, and businesses in the Hennepin Theater District. And with support from the Great Streets Project, we're leading public awareness campaign to shift attitudes and perceptions about the reconstruction, to move from the disruption and frustration to the anticipation of the revamped Hennepin Avenue. The completion of this project coincides with the centennial for our historic theaters, and we're already planning a grand reopening of Hennepin Avenue. As a result of that, we expect that we're getting more than just a roadway, that we're really emerging from this with the city helping to set the state with these capital improvements so that we can leverage these capital improvements for the benefit of the entire theater district by activating the district, by continuing to bring in great performances that benefit the entire district. I want to thank the council for their support of this project. I want to acknowledge our council members, Lisa Goodman and Stephen Fletcher, who have been vital partners and supporters for our work. And I want to thank all of you for the work that you've done on this. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Seeing none, thank you for that testimony, and thank you for your involvement in the process to date. Moving down the list, Mr. Steve Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Steve Kramer, President and CEO of the Minneapolis Downtown Council, 81 South 9th Street. So Hennepin is a venerable street in our city. I mean, we should be a little more celebratory this morning. What's wrong with you people? This is a great project, and it's been a pleasure to be involved with it for the last 3 years, as Don said. I would just make a couple of points. One, from the DID perspective, we've also been working to make sure that the operational implications of the design that you see are being fully vetted and understood by our stakeholders, so there will not only be this capital component, there also will be a slight increase in the operating costs associated with these improvements, but it's well worth it, and those will be part of our future budgets coming forward in the post-2022 period. And then secondly, from a downtown council perspective, I mean, I really see this as a fourth major public realm investment that we've made just in the last few years. I mean, Commons Park is open and operating. New Nicollet, PV Plaza renovation has been a great hit, and now we'll have this wonderful streetscape accompanied. And Don blew right through all the attributes of the street project itself, but the new Hennepin will accommodate bus rapid transit, protected bikeway, as you saw, so it really will be befitting the great status that Hennepin has as one of our great streets in downtown Minneapolis and throughout the city. So it's a pleasure to be here this morning. This is a point of celebration, I think. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Let's list any more from the list. Anyone wish to come forward? Anyone wish to come forward and give testimony and comment? See none, I will close the public hearing and yield the floor to Councilmember Fletcher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So for those of you who haven't gotten to know Don Elwood, that was his excited face. This is a celebratory morning. But thank you for your work on this, Don, because this is such an accomplishment. This is how we make places special, right? Is that we dig into the mess of it and we get into all of the competing concerns and the things that everybody wants from a street, and there's so many things that people want from Hennepin because it's so crucial for so many reasons. And we get to answers that make a kind of investment that is going to make this place feel special. And I am determined, and I know that everybody else is determined, and that's why we stuck with each other long enough to get to this point where we can celebrate that this stretch of Hennepin is a special place, and we're going to make it a special place, and this is going to be a real destination. And I think that the work that our Public Works Department did to get to a place that the public testimony here is largely one of consensus and celebration, and to get to a place where we can really say it takes, it really takes some civic-minded everybody investing and doing their part, and all of the little investments that everybody's making are going to add up to more than the sum of those investments. I think we're going to really see this start to be a place that draws people in and that invites people, and Hennepin's been that at many times in Minneapolis' history in different ways, and this next incarnation of it is going to be one of the best yet. So thank you everybody who's been involved in this process, who's raised your concerns so that we could get to a place that we felt good about it, and to everybody, the building owners who are making big investments, not just through these assessments, but also in renovating their buildings and really, starting to invest, and to Hennepin Theater Trust, who's doing so much to liven up the whole stretch from 5 to 10 and really make it feel like a theater district. So there's so much great creative work going on and so much investment, and I'm excited about the future of Hennepin Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Anyone else wish to make comment? I'll just add, it's been 3 years formally, but certainly there was pre-consideration about Hennepin Avenue well in advance of that. As a matter of fact, I don't know there's a time when we don't collectively, civically think about Hennepin Avenue, what it's been, what it is presently, and what it can be. Nicollet Avenue is great. It'll get in design magazines every time we go around to design it and jazz it up, and it'll have its own sort of flavor. But in my mind, Hennepin Avenue is Main Street Minneapolis. It's urban, it's active, it always has been. It has that character, not defined by design elements, but the people who use it and use it well. To that end, I would just have to call out the Hennepin Theater Trust. Without peer, you step up to be the activator, to care about what happens presently and into the future. And on that, I think we do have a solid, as Councilmember Fletcher has described, a solid foundation, pardon the pun, to set the stage for what Hennepin Avenue can be moving forward. We have a lot of great elements, but all the elements that are there are prepared for more activation. And I think we are really on a strong footing to do that future work, but with a great street that will get accomplished, because Don Elwood's on the job, he'll get it done, and it'll be a great day when we cut those ribbons. So, and great leadership from the council members who put everything into it, knowing how important it is for the whole city. So thank you for that. With that, I will move the item before us. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, and we basically had two actions, and so that was formally the action for the layout, and then we'll formally take up the action for the streetscape, because it was one consistent presentation and one consistent set of testimony. So item 3, specific to the streetscape, I'll move that item. All in favor say aye. Aye. Dissenting nay. That carries. We've now dispensed with our business and may adjourn. Thank you, everyone.